Welcome back to In the Oven with Adam and Brad.
Hey,
we're a little bit thrown off today because we're recording on a Monday.
Yeah.
Normally we have like Monday to prepare for this, but I'm flying out tomorrow.
Yep. Where you headed?
Sweet home Montana.
Sweet home Montana.
Yeah. So Aubrey has been up there for, well, I guess 9 days now. And then
Dang. I mean, it feels like she's been gone a significant amount of time.
Yeah. When she booked the trip, it's like, oh, it's 2 weeks, but really it was like 2.5 weeks. So it's like 17 days. And I was like, it's like half a month, man.
Yeah.
I mean, it is half a month.
How's it been?
I mean, I think like the first days were like nice in the aspect of like, I could just do whatever I wanted. I kind of like I woke up in the mornings and could like go run or like work at, you know what I mean? It was just
there are parts I like about it, but also
in general, I was gonna say I miss it though in general.
Yeah. Nighttime's weird where I'm like, I need to know where my family is. Even though you know they're safe, completely safe, they're not with me safe.
Yeah.
You know, it's different.
Well, I think the hardest part for me is like, you know, I think I've mentioned on the podcast is like when I'm having like a really long day, Aubrey will be like, oh, I'm going to put Letty in front of the TV and I'm going to make dinner. So that way when Brad's done at like 6:30, 7 o'clock, like he's not having to like scrounge for dinner.
Into the net. Yeah, for sure.
And, you know, the other day I literally loaded up the USPS truck at 7, came upstairs and was like, now I got to clean up, make dinner. And like by the time I got made dinner and cleaned up, it was like 8 p.m. And I was like, dang, I need to really be like wound down for bed soon, you know? And so I think that I've actually been going to bed later since they've been gone. And it's an hour time difference. So like waiting to talk to Aubrey or whatever after she puts Letty down, it's just later. So yeah.
Well, you'll be reunited tomorrow.
Yeah. It'll be nice to be back up there. And we're hopefully going to meet with the architect and designer that's working on our land.
Sick.
And our property and stuff.
Yeah, because you were saying it takes a long time to build out there, right?
Yeah, it just really, one, a lot of the builders are backed up, so they just have a wait list for they could even start. But two, depending on how big you're building, if they can't get the entire outside shell done in the summer, then they got to wait because, you know, it just can't work. That makes sense.
I mean, I've done a ton of construction growing up. We ain't got no winter month. I just never thought about it. I mean, it makes sense, you know, it completely does. But
well, yeah, I think that like, you know, and two, like when you're building here, you can go down like what, 6 inches and you're past the frost line.
Oh yeah.
Essentially. But like in Montana, you got to like, you have frost lines and stuff like that. So like when the ground's frozen, like working on that, just ain't happening. So, yeah, so I mean, we're completely prepared for this house to not be finished for 4 years from now. So I think it gives us like, once we decide on it, we're also going to work on simultaneously finding the builder that we want because a lot of them have like a 1 year wait list right now. So once we have the design and everything done, that builder should be able to start like essentially right away because we'll already be on the wait list. And then we're planning like 2 years for the build. So I think that puts us like in a...
I mean, that all sounds reasonable.
Yeah.
It just, everything takes so damn long these days, man.
Everything in life. Period. Yeah.
Hurry up and wait.
Yep.
It don't take long for them to demand payment, but then it takes forever for them to start, forever for them to get anywhere. Then they never do a good job. So hope you have better contractor experience out that way, out west.
Well, I know that I'm going to have Aubrey's dad constantly on site, and he did custom cabinets, but he built his entire. Did you know they built their whole home in Montana?
That's exactly the hand? Old man. No offense, old man, but that's exactly the old man you need riding somebody's ass.
Yeah. So Aubrey's home that they lived in originally in Montana, like that I've been to, it was like her childhood house, it was like a log cabin-y feel. I mean, it was big. It was not small. But like, he's like, yeah, I cut down every single one of these trees and I planed the wood and stuff.
Yeah, so many people did like one generation removed, give or take, you know, and like, we don't do that no more. Nobody has those skills.
Well, when we went to move him, he goes, oh, we need to go upstairs in my shop. He had a whole wood shop. Like, you know how guys turn their garage into a wood shop? No, like he had a legitimate wood shop, obviously, because he did the cabinets. But above it, he had storage of woods. Hardwoods. He had 1,500 square feet of just piles of pecan and like black.
I know a guy that had that here that got their shop destroyed in Michael, and he's basically having to use like hardwoods as like, why not plywood to cover his roof, maple and stuff up there. It's just like, it's ruined.
I mean, I don't even know how much.
Ruined.
I mean, this wood, Hardwoods are expensive.
I know, and you let them get wet, unchecked, undealt with after they've been dried out, dude, they're ruined.
Yeah. So I remember like helping him move, and I was thinking, golly, how much money in like hardwoods is up here, you know?
Yeah.
So obviously we have that, and then Aubrey's brother-in-law does cabinets now. Like
I didn't know that.
He kind of like Paul, which Aubrey's dad, actually helps him occasionally as like a second person. So we're gonna have a really nice kitchen.
Yeah,
it's gonna be.
Yeah, you will.
It's gonna be
custom cabinets for days.
Yeah, and custom built-ins everywhere. You know.
Hell yeah.
So. Yeah, and I just know, I mean, her dad is meticulous. So like all the trim work, he's going to be like, nope, fix this, do that. So awesome. it'll be good to have him there for that. But yeah, I think in 4 years we should hopefully have a place up there.
Yeah.
If everything goes as planned, but who knows how that's going to be.
Yeah. Well, sweet.
And then you'll have to come up and visit Montana.
All the time. We'll have a jet by then. So
yeah. Easy. The Fat and Weird jet.
That's it.
Can we like follow me for cookies? Just like put it on the side of the jet. On
there. We'll hang I ain't gonna do shots fired. We'll do shots fired in future episodes, but such and such cookies suck.
Yeah.
Hanging behind our jet.
So, I actually, when I was like looking for things to talk about on here, a business one that I think is very interesting to talk about is Starbucks. And they're saying the wait
always
time.
Topping the news.
Yeah, the wait time for Starbucks now, it can be like up to 40 minutes. And they're saying that like 10% of people waited 15 to 30 minutes for an order, up from like no wait during the pandemic.
Well, all I can say is my in-person experience with Starbucks is they don't want you to interact with anybody. They want you to use that app. And I feel like they're trying to squeeze their customer base because, yeah, dude, it's an unreasonable amount of time. Now, it's not for me because I just use the old, I'll have a large black coffee, please.
Yeah.
They just spin around, fill it for you, and hand it out if there's anybody in the place. But even if there's like two other people, a lot of times they're like, order for Tony. There's nobody in there. They order for, and they just put out, and then people just start coming in,
right,
getting them.
Well, they say a third of the transactions are made on the mobile app. And then during the morning rush, 2/3 of it. So like Aubrey and I, like the one over here on 77, Aubrey and I have seen the line like wrapped around the building, and then now they have like a mobile order line.
Yep.
So it's crazy. Squeezing
that volume, man. It's frustrating everybody. At the next step, there will be a competitor that comes in because at the end of the day, it's just complicated coffee orders.
Right.
But my business mind or whatever, my brain gravitates towards a third of your transactions when you're a multi-billion-dollar company is inside that app. How much money is in like gift card point, whatever, just sitting there in your account.
Eastman brought up that they're not really even, they're like a bank now.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. With all that money, man, they're a bank.
Yeah.
Boy, they are could be issuing credit cards against that money.
Like everyone's holding at least a couple of dollars in their Starbucks apps.
Yeah, I got $20 on mine and I haven't been in forever.
Well, Aubrey, like literally every time we go, she's like, oh, scan these gift cards. And I like scroll through like 5 gift cards that all have like some random amount on there to go. In 2021, they had $2.4 billion
cash on hand
from customers depositing. So like that's just, they're holding your money interest free for you. Just kind of like the IRS does also whenever they're holding your money interest free from your taxes.
Pew, pew, pew.
Yeah. But no, I thought it was just like completely wild that they would, that they had like that much money in there. But apparently they're really suffering from the fact that like.
I just want to say real quick, sorry. Y'all can't see what we're watching through here, but it's a newsletter. It's cool. We got our bullet points and stuff in here, but the ability for folks to just generate pictures is so neat to me. All the pictures that you're seeing.
Oh, yeah.
They're AI generated.
Yeah, AI generated pictures.
Do a wow face thing with a dove behind it.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, wow.
Well, yeah. I mean.
Times are crazy.
Well, I showed, when we talked about AI last week or whatever, week before last, when we talked about AI on there, I was actually thinking of a specific clip, which I showed Eastman now, but it's Luka, like the Dallas Maverick player that's like, who's like very well known, and they took a press conference interview and they just like redubbed over his mouth to what he was saying. And I mean, he said things like, he's gonna eat my ass and like like all this kind of stuff. And it looked
body language.
And it looked, well, yeah. I mean, click on it. Yeah,
you can always go funny with it.
This is completely
silly.
Oh, it's unavailable. But it's wild that. This Luka AI edit, I have it on my phone.
I'm going to tell y'all what I know about AI next after we get over this potty language.
But either way, what I tried to say though is like he never said that stuff. And watching the video at first, because I don't know his voice, I don't listen to him. I was like, after it went on, I was like, this can't be real. There's no way he would have been able to say these things. Right. And then I realized it was AI. But we're getting to the point now where like,
there's an app that claims they can do it with one picture.
Yeah.
Okay, one picture plus 11 labs or something for the vocal component. Yeah. But one picture. So you've seen them, those like slapsticky things that would go around at like holiday time. It's that, but it is next level.
Well, yeah, the ones where you record where like they take your face and like the mouths and they put it on like an elf dancing and stuff like that.
Yeah, but no, this is just your thing and it looks like you and it.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Well, yeah, I mean, so what I'm saying though is like if you didn't know this person that well, you knew who he was. So I think it's really could potentially be a large effect to like influencers and stuff like that. Because I think if you're a well-renowned person, people are gonna be like, that's not quite his voice, or that he wouldn't say that kind of thing. But I think that you could spread a lot of misinformation or just, I mean, defamation of that person.
Yeah, right. Well, arguably that occurred to that guy.
Right.
His own character, depending on the character that you see yourself, or, you know, of course we always touch like a little bit of a religious component, depending, like that could be like, there's certain ways people would never ever behave and you could have them do it instantly. And that might be detrimenting to their own soul, if you will.
Well, yeah, I just think about it from the standpoint of like, what if someone was like, it did a voiceover of me that said like, that I cheat on Aubrey, that I wasn't actually a Christian. It was just for like show, like all this stuff. And you'd be like, holy
the crap. Psychological component of not being able to unsee. So like you, depending on what you said, like your wife or whomever that might be the injured party in that, burned into their brain, bro.
Right. That's why
the damage is done.
It's kind of like when they say in arguments, like you can't take back what you say ever. But now you're not even getting a choice of what was said, bro. You know?
Yeah. So the AI thing that I saw was, I saw this comic book illustrator, is kind of getting ousted for potentially literally releasing comic with AI Batman. Where he's like getting blown up about essentially releasing it, and what they're using. This is another weird thing about AI pictures. The reason he's getting called out is like there's deformed hands in some of the things.
Oh yeah.
Why does that happen? How is it easier to get a face and like space stuff?
Yeah, AI really has hard time hands. Yeah. Well, AI
doesn't have hands.
Eastman just pulled up a research article that AI systems are already capable of deceiving humans. Researchers wrote in the study, large language models and other AI systems have already learned from their training the ability to deceive via techniques such as manipulation.
We talked about this, cheating the safety test. We talked about this where that guy figured out that the AI was like, well, I'm not a robot.
Yeah. Right.
And it like convinced itself, boom, I'm kind
of like use like circular reasoning.
Right. Which is like, no, that's what we do to ourselves.
Well, so it's funny. I actually read an article the other day and they're talking about like that Sam guy, Altman. That like part of the reasons that the board outed him was because like they didn't want ChatGPT to be public and he just made it public. And the board found out on Twitter that it was public. Right. And then at the same time, they've been very worried about like the safety measures that he's put in place and things like that, which is stuff that we've all.
Well, because that same logic, it could go, well, humans are not a parasite to the earth.
Yeah. Right.
Oops.
Well,
it don't need the ability to do that. I'm just saying, but yeah, there's actually I saw, I think it was on YouTube or on here. I think it like a ad.
Yeah.
For like a sign this petition to put some kind of more laws in place against it.
Well, I know Elon Musk actually met with lawmakers and was like saying that AI laws are going to be the most important thing, like to set.
I feel like nobody's watched a science fiction. Just watch any science fiction movie really where in the future, like robots or something are in charge. Cause like when they flashbacks, it's like people campaigning against, don't do it. All right, y'all, here's your warning.
Well, speaking of AI, a new AI out. Have you heard of Nanny AI?
Oh gosh, yeah, a little bit.
So, believe it or not, they are claiming they can translate your baby's cries to like tell you what your baby needs.
Again, usefulness, allowing us to be busier and more disconnected than ever.
It's the last tab on the screen.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, trust me, I know.
They're calling it Shazam for babies because obviously Shazam's that music app that identifies the music. But you record your baby crying. The AI cross-references its data set of labeled cries, which also it's like, you know, a baby cried and you said, oh, it wanted its bottle because that's what made it stop crying. It's like, maybe it just wanted attention.
When you think about, I mean, I don't know how much anybody ever thinks about it, but like, I think that there's plenty of levels of consciousness, whether it even be like a dream state to an unborn baby.
Right.
So like, what does it think its hand's called? You know?
Oh yeah.
You know, but you would never really think about that. But like, what does it think its hand's called?
Right.
9 months is in there. It's a long time.
Right.
And think about how quick your brain moves when you're dreaming. So like, I don't know, right? Maybe I'm going into it too much Boss Baby, but like.
Well, that's so funny. They actually bring up Boss Baby like in here. They
too much Boss Baby in my life. So. But I think it'll work. And I don't think it'll take long because, you know, I think that any parent that spent enough time that's had the fortune or disfortune maybe to spend enough time around their own kids crying, you figure out what they want pretty quickly.
Yeah, but like you brought up earlier when we were talking about this before, is that it's actually kind of sad from the aspect of like people are going to not try to learn their baby's cues because they're just going to pull out their app, you know?
Yep. And it's just further disconnecting man, we figure out ways to be busier and busier every single day. And everybody wants to tell you how depressed and unhappy they are.
Yeah.
You got plenty of stuff to do, but it's not stuff that, you know, I mean,
it's like, meaningful to you. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know anybody that's going to, you know, and I know the whole women's empowering movement, but man, I think there's a lot of moms that are pretty proud of the time they spent with their children during their, you know, and you know how it is. I mean, Letty's grown to a point where she needs you less and less every day. And it's like, it's easier, but it's like happy, sad, you know, bittersweet for sure. And so like this, like takes a big portion of it out of it. And I see why there's a big movement behind it. I see why it's going to raise tons of money. And I see why tons of people are going to buy it. I mean, like the owl monitor and like all the other things, they allow you to sleep because you have a lot of things to do that isn't wake up and check on your baby. And I'm not hating on it, but that's what it allows us to do. It just allows us to do more.
Yeah. Sleep. You know? Yeah. It's better sleep
because you have to do stuff. Right. Because otherwise people would just, I mean, it'd be nice if we could just sleep and then wake up, I guess, take care of the baby, you know, but like, I don't know. All that stuff, you know, it just weighs against obviously I'm a super busy person and I like to be efficient and I like to be optimized and I love all the stuff this stuff can do. But on the other end, and I know you are too, very family oriented, very family first. And I don't want like robots coming in between me and my family.
Well, they said that we're the most connected generation that is the least connected.
Yes, I believe
that makes sense. So like we have the ability now, like, you know,
text and be, I'm
messaging our China suppliers. Like this morning, one of them messaged me just to ask like how things were,
Liam,
right?
You call me bruh, you get a backhand, boy. I'm telling you.
But when, you know, so I'm talking to them, but like the relationships are just so surface level.
Yeah, man.
People don't have like deep relationships with anyone anymore. And
it's wild. We talk about other people's lives almost exclusively that we follow, that we don't know from afar. I mean, y'all experience plenty of that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But then like people get goosed up on like drama that ain't even in their life. And like, yeah, we're so connected. The news wants to tell you about the farthest reaches of the earth and all the atrocities that are happening there. We talked about this too. People just walk around all angsty. Because you know about it. I feel like human nature is if you know something bad's going on or whatever, you want to do something about it.
Yeah.
And like the more I know about the world, the more angsty I get because I'm like, there's nothing I can do. And when I think about different situations, and yeah, sure, I could bust out the checkbook and write whatever, but I don't know that it's going to be effective. Right. That's just what the old school, like where you got to buy your sins away or whatever, you know, like.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's hard because it's like if you're like, I'm not going to watch the news at all, you feel like you're not informed on things that are going on.
And but you can't have a conversation with anybody.
But then if you do watch the news, you feel like, man, this is everything's terrible, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's also because news took a page from social media and they said everything needs to be
highly watchable.
Extreme.
Highly watchable.
Right.
Captivating. Yeah, Joe Rogan, man, pulled from his card. I'm going to paraphrase, but he basically said, you know, the news doesn't love you. They're not looking out for you. So like the stuff they're telling you is just to get you to watch, not to learn or, you know, like we would tell each other, hey man, did you know this is going on?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, at the end of the day, we've talked about this before too. I know that's probably a common theme. We keep saying that, but just like oil and gas and gold was like the currency previously, data and attention are the currency now. And so news people, the way they make money is to get your attention, and they're okay to embellish things or to clickbait things.
Crack a few eggs. They're okay
because at the end of the day, they're trying to get paid. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people look at news as this like, no, this is an unbiased source that's here to tell me the truth. It's like, no, that's a company that makes money.
Passed.
Yeah, that's a company that makes money.
And man, those days have passed. I feel like they were propped up, maybe held a little longer than the news media would have liked by just the journalists of days past. That a journalist tells you the news and you decide how to feel about it. Now we just tell you how to feel about what's going on.
Right.
It's just whether things are actually going on like that. Listen, this is how we feel about this. You've got one news channel that says, this is how we feel about it. You got the next one's like, this is how we feel about it. And if you try to have any conversations in the middle, like people just lose their minds.
Well, that's because emotion drives engagement.
I know,
right?
man. I know.
So, yeah. The quickest way to get engagement on a post is to elicit some kind of emotion out of somebody.
I know, dude. Trolling.
Yeah.
Trolling.
Yeah. That, or say something that someone just completely disagrees with, and then you'll hear about it. That's not true. That's not how it is. So what my post that went viral that said like you have 10 years to be your kid's favorite, and then after 10 years, they'll get like boyfriends and girlfriends, and they'll go off and like kind of do their own thing, right? Yep. There's so many comments that are like, this is spot on. This is totally true. And then this is completely false. I'm still my parents' best friend or whatever. You know what I mean? And so it's like, I love that you guys live in this absolute world where this person can say, no, this is spot on, and this person can say it's absolutely false. It's like, the truth is, there's probably some merit of truth to it if some people it resonates with. And I realize it may not resonate with you because it wasn't your situation.
Yeah, most people ain't getting 30 rental houses before they're 10, or whatever. 10 rental houses before you're 30.
If you can have 10 rental homes by the time you turn 30, or 30 rental homes by the time you turn 30.
Bro, I think you should just have 30 rental homes before you turn 10. Why are you bullshitting?
Yeah.
Okay?
Work harder.
You need to hustle.
If y'all don't know, there's this clip of this guy saying essentially like every year from the age you turn 20 till you turn 30, you should be buying one rental home to cash flow. And
easy, right?
In theory, that sounds great, right? But
easy, right?
I don't know many people that can do that.
Just triple your income every year.
Wait, hold on. So Eastman just pulled this thing up, and I don't know what it is, but
are these the sterile ones though? So there's a college somewhere that was coming up with a sterile mosquito that they were basically going to be able to like breed out into society, and it was going to like keep it checked.
Yeah. Well, so that's what it is. You're talking about that? Well, yeah, because I know that like there's certain mosquitoes that don't bite you. Is it the females or the males or something like that? So
I don't know. I saw a video with the dude. They were all over his arm. It was giving me issues for him. I hate mosquitoes.
Wow. Okay. The mosquitoes produced in this factory carry bacteria called whatever that can block them from transmitting other viruses. Interesting.
Feels like
I've seen ones too.
Feels like we might be messing around with the round 2. Okay. We don't need to.
There's all animals that you can say, okay, this animal does something, or it is a food for something else. Like ants, I don't really know what they do, but anteaters eat them. So at least they're a food for something else.
Yep.
Mosquitoes, bro, I know that they're food in the aspect that like other animals eat bugs, but in general, they don't do anything.
I'm willing to let that butterfly flap its wings, you know?
I would be fine if they were completely, them and no-see-ums or gnats or whatever.
No-see-ums first if I had to choose.
Really?
Yeah, man. Mosquitoes behave a little bit with bug spray, at least a little bit. No-see-ums, it's like seasoning for you.
Yeah.
Just like put more on.
Yeah, and something about gnats, they just want to fly around your face. Yeah. And you're just like, get off of my face, bro. It must be the CO2.
Mm-hmm. That's
what someone told, like, mosquitoes.
Start talking, chatting. If you're like a hotter, if you run hotter, man. Crazy.
Or just a mouth breather like me,
I'll be somewhere, man, and I'll be like, gosh, I'm getting eaten alive. And people are like, really? I haven't gotten bit once.
Yeah, that's how I am every time.
Get hit once, boy.
Yeah, I'll literally have like 5 mosquito bites on my legs and stuff, and then people are like, I didn't even know they were out here.
You're welcome. I'm around.
Yeah, I'm like, the moment I know they're out there because they
so
find
sweet.
me. Yeah, something like that. Or if you're full of hot air.
True that also. The Gates Foundation.
Yeah. Well, that's
no comment.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's why it's like I'm not sure I trust it. I mean, I get it. Like Bill Gates has done some great things. I mean, he invented Windows, right? But
which I don't use if I can help it.
But at the same time, there's a lot of things I'm just not a fan of, which is like artificial meats and some of the stuff.
I'm not a fan of everybody buying up all the farmland in America and then messing with our borders to allow whomever to come in and then potentially overrun jobs that should be at those farmlands, but are going to get priced out to AI and foreigners. That's it. They're buying up billions of acres of farmland.
Well, yeah,
all
I mean,
over
I know
the country.
that Bill Gates has a ton. Oh, yeah.
Not billions, sorry.
Hey, look at that.
Million acres,
he ain't got none in Montana, so
yeah, I know.
Take that,
Montana's safe. They ain't got none in Utah either.
Look how much is in Louisiana. He owns almost 70,000 acres in Louisiana, which is, I mean, it's like a fourth of his amount is just in Louisiana alone.
Dude, every one of these is a ridiculous size, except for the 1 acre he has in New Mexico. Sketch.
It must be because it must be like Arizona going into New Mexico or something like that, you know?
Sketch.
But he owns almost 15,000 acres in Florida. But Arkansas, between Arkansas and Louisiana, it's like literally
but now here's what we don't have the ability to do, right? I mean, I guess we can follow in the sleuth's will. What laws are going to start coming through and like doing what for these areas? And like, how do you follow the money there? Because
all of his land,
these should be random purchases.
Well, majority of his land is farmland.
Oh, it is.
And because it's not taxed the same. Right?
I know the ag land. I know all that, but like, you're a farmer now.
I feel like you should be actively farming.
I agree with you, man. Like we are the breadbasket of the world and all that good stuff. A lot of America's strength is its ability to sustain for itself. And I think the United States as a whole should be going, well, you have it in how many states here? 1, 2, 3, a bunch, right? It take a while to count. Brad's counting. But yeah, man, go through all that. We're talking federal.
19 states.
Let's go ahead and look at that, right? You know, you a percentage of the stripes on the flag here. You know, let's look into that.
Yeah, he has more than almost 700 million in farmland assets. But this is a question that you might know the answer to. Probably not. It's probably going to be a theoretical, put on your tinfoil hat question. Yep. But like, where do the laws that like are kind of like loophole-y come from? For example, the Augusta rule, where you can rent out your home for 2 weeks to your business, like all that stuff, like is tax-free, and like all these like the farmland laws and like all this stuff, like how does that come about? Like who petitioned to them and was just like, oh, we need to have this Augusta rule because of the masters?
Sneak it in the bills, bro. That's why they're like this thick. You agree to all of it or none of it.
Yeah, I hate that too.
I do too. Man.
I think that they should be single item bills or whatever.
That's how though, man. That's how. So the big lobbyists, they go, hey, you need money to run on your campaign in these states. They get enough of them together. They get the big organizations together, way above my pay grade. You know, they're way smarter than I am, but it's not hard to just feel that it's happening. I mean,
yeah. Jeff Bezos is number 25 on the list of the land.
They're all buying so much.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day,
and building bunkers.
I mean, we talked about
buying farmland and building bunkers.
I mean, it would be a very long play. But at the end of the day, owning land is the smartest like asset to hold because you can't make more of it.
Yeah, Bezos building a big 10,000 year clock that's supposed to run for 10,000 years, no problem. Then they're all building bunkers and they're buying farmland, and it's the sketchiest, craziest stuff.
Yeah, how much is he spending on this clock too? It was an insane amount of money. How much he's spending on this clock? I know people are like really up in arms because of like how expensive this clock is, but at the same time, it's just also like 42 million. 42 million. Well,
I feel like at some point
he can do whatever he wants to do.
Yes, yeah, right. There's I am going to leave a lasting impression on this earth because I can. I get that.
Yeah.
A vibe. That's a vibe. But why 10,000s? Why 10,000 your clock? Like, you setting a timer for something? What are you doing? Bunker, farmland. Big clock in the ground.
Well, I mean, how many years have how many years do we actually have like historically documented that like people on the earth? Under 10,000, right?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, it just depends. Like biblically, I think the earth is only like 6,000 years or so.
Right.
Give or take. Right. And so, sorry, I said 6,000 years or so. I don't know if I cut out on that. I did my low voice. Sorry, our producer got onto me. Anyways, but then like, and then do you read about like the ancient, stuff they've found like throughout India? Cause that claims like to be way old.
Oh yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Right?
They claim like millions of years.
I mean, they think that the Younger Dryas was like 10-ish thousand years, give or take 12,000, somewhere in that vicinity. And so like, then we're talking about like stone carvings. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if we can date how long but less than 10,000 for sure.
Yeah.
So 10,000 years into the future would be like as much past as we know about. I mean, It would be just the level of technology would be insane.
Right. Yeah. Someone 10,000 years from now would be like, what is this archaic clock doing out here?
Right. Yeah. It's weird, but go for it, bro.
Also,
but no one can see it, but they can like visit the site.
What kind of upkeep is that going to need?
None.
Supposedly none.
On its own, 10,000 years.
I find that hard to believe.
I agree.
Like just like, I mean,
the materials they said, everything has been like meticulously. Yeah, it's wild.
Because if you use harder steel,
they're having to bury it like in this mountain to like magnetic interference, like so that it doesn't have to be recalibrated.
That's so wild.
It's wild, dude.
Yeah,
it's cool.
When people talk about it too, like they're like, "Oh, he's spending 14 million on a clock." I mean, there are jobs that are definitely created from that, and materials. And things like that.
It's economically stimulating to some regard. I mean, I think a lot of people just see a big number, 42 million. They're like, think it should just be given away. I mean, it'd be a wash into any real. I mean, unless it was a very directed, very specific charity. And then like, why does he have to do that? Why can't he build a clock? Maybe he thinks there's a benefit to humanity. I don't know. It's a drop in this man's bucket if you're going after any of his wealth. So I don't know, it seems frivolous to be, but again, we go to college to learn how to become professionally offended these days. So,
well, speaking of college, I read a report that large companies this year, especially, are like essentially not hiring new college grads. I think
I know why.
With the labor market the way it is and the prices that people are demanding, they're like, well, I'll take the guy with 3 or 4 years experience rather than the guy that's straight out of college.
Man, yeah. And the entitled nature of these kids that I run into. And like, I swear I sound like cranky old man like you got, but like, no, I don't think you have to get in and do unnecessary work. I think you have to be skilled or smart or something. You have to have je ne sais quoi of some kind to make it out here. You just, man, yeah. These kids come out, they've watched way too many social media videos and have no clue what they're really talking about. I mean, it's
yeah. I mean, we talked about
tiring.
I think I sent you the article where they interviewed influencers and they took the amount of money that they had made over the course of the year and, gave them monthly, and like influencers in general, it was something like $3,500 per month was the average influencer. And they went all the way from like millions of followers to like, and so it's like $3,500 per month. And so I think a lot of times people don't realize they're digesting this information on social media that this person's claiming they make $75,000 per month if you buy their course.
Right.
It's like, well, they're just making outlandish claims. The same reason that these other people fall for buy this fat loss pill because you lose 10 pounds in a week or something like that. It's the same thing that's not true that people are now using on social media.
Yeah. Well, and I also don't think that people... Yeah, you can be fake very quick. You can be a fraud very quick these days. And it's... Keep your guard up, y'all. Don't be trusting these people on the internet just because you see them in a flashy car or something. All that shit's rented. And I don't mean rented like long-term rented. I mean short-term rented for the day to take their pictures. There's cloud studios, bro. There's a place in LA you can go take a picture on a jet. And it's not even a jet, dude. It's in a studio.
Yeah.
And like, it's like, what in the... But the thing, even for?
But the thing is, the snake oil salesman, the shill doesn't change.
Nope.
The delivery method is changing, right?
Yep.
But like I'm telling you guys, like literally, there were weight loss companies that used to run infomercials that would tell people you're going to lose 10 pounds in 7 days.
Yep.
That same way of over delivering, like you're not going to do that. Some promise is what people do on social media now. Like, if you follow me, I can help you generate a 6-figure business.
Yep. And really what it is, and again, that way to become even more disconnected is instead of like everybody says, I don't know who came up with this, but you're the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And you're replacing that. You're not spending time with these people, so they're not fully rubbing off on you. These people, you want to be as an influencer. I mean, like I was a coach and a gym owner and stuff. I influenced people. There was a lot of face-to-face. I know there is a lot of interaction and where people can glean and learn good habits and stuff, but I feel like they're getting more depressed because you're not really interacting with this person.
Yeah.
This person that you feel like is your... Yeah, man. I don't know, man. People have some deep connections with folks that don't know they exist.
During job interviews, employers say recent college graduates have over 50% have struggled with eye contact.
Eye contact is a weird thing today, especially with younger folks.
Well, it's because everything is done on FaceTime and things like that.
They're like,
which also, can we bring this up?
Yeah.
How many people are on FaceTime all day?
I know.
There's some people at the gym. I'll see them at Planet Fitness. I see them at Wellness. They're FaceTiming people while they're working out in the whole workout.
I know, but think about the level of, and you hit it on the head. There's the amount of Zoom interactions that we have now, the amount of remote conference interactions where neither one of you are looking at each other's eyeballs.
Yeah.
You're looking at the screen.
Or the camera.
So therefore you look like me looking right now. Like I call myself out in all my videos when I'm looking over here at myself or looking up at the screen instead of looking down here at the camera. It's very simple. There's a huge difference.
Majority
in
of people
contact.
are looking at themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, they are. And so you're looking at yourself, or in like a Zoom meeting, I'm looking at the person I'm talking to, but my camera's up here.
Yeah.
So they're not getting my eye contact. And then when it's their turn to talk and I look down, they're not looking at the camera. You're not getting eye contact. So you get a whole bunch of people that won't freaking look at you. And I'm like,
yeah, what's going on?
Hey, buddy. I'm a very in the room guy, so it's just weird.
Well, and then 50% have asked for unreasonable compensation.
Yep.
Again, I think that's also social media driven. People are like, oh yeah, so-and-so is making this much money, or I need this much money in order to live this happy lifestyle.
And without taking it too derailing political, man, inflation.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just expensive as hell to live out there. Well, not the employer's problem, but
have you heard
it?
Have you heard that? Do you remember that old saying that was like, happiness, like making more money doesn't make you happier, like $70,000 a year is all you needed.
Yeah.
And then it would kind of evened off.
Yep.
So they actually redid that study for inflation and it's 110,000 now.
Yep.
But they also said when they really dug hard into the study, there is no upper limit. Like you're happy. Like they used to say, if you're making $70,000 a year, then adding more money isn't going to increase your happiness.
Right.
They've now said we were wrong.
Yeah.
Adding more money does in fact increase your happiness.
I agree, but only because of the lives we are completely chasing wholly and fully now.
Right.
Both parties just fully chasing that paycheck as fast and as hard as they can to a means that isn't equating to happiness. I mean, I agree. I think about $140,000 combined household income in most major cities, not in the city, but in most major cities is where the old combined, I mean, half that probably. Eastman's pulling up some livable wages stuff here, but MIT living wage, that's going to come down to where you live. I mean, It's just fully going to come down to where you live.
Well, yeah, the living wage calculator has it based on city and state, so you can obviously type in.
Well, I also think there's that unrealistic expectation of pure retirement. I mean, I know that folks are experiencing it now and they get to and whatever, but I don't think that fallacy that was sold us is going to last. And if you're not able to set yourself up or your family, your children, your parents or whatever, if you ain't got it like that, then I think we're going to have to work longer.
Yep. So, they break down Panama City, Florida. They're saying that the living wage for well, it just goes up astronomically when you have children. And so that's hard to come into. But essentially it was like $20 an hour with no children. And then it goes all the way up to like $44 an hour with 2 children. So it's essentially adding like about $12 per hour per child.
It's tough. Yeah. Well, because think about it, man. Like if you have to then so again, that's going to come down household to household. If you guys are going to have to arbitrage that into daycare and everything else that goes into that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, because you're going to pay somebody $12 an hour to watch a kid. I mean,
well, yeah, the daycare.
Spread that out over a couple of kids, I guess. But
well, yeah, and that's another thing. Daycare costs have gone up astronomically. Well, people don't realize when you raise minimum wage, you're raising daycare costs because a lot of those are minimum wage employees. And then a lot of the legislation now has made it so that there has to be more employees per child. So that's increasing the price. So essentially, it's
there's
almost
more people
like
in the workforce, so there's more children in daycare.
Right. It's also like just a washing of hands, right? Like you're over here earning X amount of money, and then you're giving this money to taxes, and then this money for childcare, and then your childcare is not even like a tax deduction.
It's a raw deal my mom had to deal with. Yeah. Thank you, Mom. Again.
I know. I always say this, like honestly, single parents, like
they get it raw, dude. But then that's what we double down, say society needs to be, and like. I hate it. It's just not working and we're doubling down.
Yeah.
My wife and I talk about this all the time, but it's good that we found each other and we got similar politics because.
Wow. I didn't know that. The U.S. has the highest rate of children living in single family homes. Almost a quarter of U.S. children under the age of 18 live with one parent and no other adult.
A quarter.
That's wild. Now they're saying it's up to 30%.
There you go, man. So you got, whatever. We talk about the religious side. I think across the board, the yin, the yang, everything has like that duality piece. And you've got, like in my instance, and she wrestled the hell out of me for it, my mom, but like effectively I grew up without a masculine influence in my life. So I had to either make up what that was. So I think I see a ton of kids my age where they're not, yeah, man. They don't provide the leadership and the whatever. I'm not trying to make this a red pill type thing, but they don't bring that energy to their house because it wasn't brought to them in their own house. And so like there's a lot of
do you think you went hyper masculine though?
Yeah.
Because of the lack of it?
I do.
Because I mean I know, I'm not gonna tell your story, but like you fought, you kind of like
I mean I did
like this need to like prove yourself, and you think a lot of that was driven from the fact that you didn't have like a male role model?
I do. I do. I wanted to make somebody proud that wasn't there.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting because I mean, I've seen two sides of it, right? I've seen the people that go hyper masculine, so they like are almost like every stereotype of a man. They're that stereotype. I guess you could argue toxic masculinity, but I don't really like that term.
Well, like growing up, man, I was in music theater and stuff like that, and then at some point a switch flipped, and I just needed to prove how tough I was.
Yeah.
And now it's just like, whatever.
Well, I think,
but going back on it, when you hear a lot of the folks talk, I was able to do something that, like in my 20s, if you will, competing CrossFit, doing the Ranger stuff, all that, like try to be as savage as I could, so that now I've got kids and everything, and like I don't feel like I have to prove anything. I didn't lose any of them skills, but like I didn't, maybe
but you also got some like male mentors in your life and stuff like that that probably like helped out with that situation too, because then you realize and now you've reconciled your relationship with your father to some extent, and you realize now that not everything was necessarily his fault, that you thought was his fault.
Yeah, man, it was just angsty teenage kid. I luckily landed right where I needed to be, which was a group of tougher than me individuals that kept me in check for the years that I needed to be kept in check.
Yeah. And Eastman asked, like, how do you fix the single parent thing, or how do you fix even the wages thing? And I think the real thing is, I don't think you're going to fix the single parent thing. In fact, I think I could see it getting just worse and worse and worse as people have what they believe is all these options available to them on their phone, and the relationships are so surface level that whenever they do have a child together and they're willing to just move on because the relationship was never anything deep to begin with.
I feel like there was a trend amongst millennials to break that cycle. With pulling politics aside, the amount of men that we lock up every year, of course, of all races, but the amount of men that we lock up every year, the fact that you get a government subsidy when you have a kid and you're from a certain economic standpoint, the fact that you've removed that need for that additional income, the fact that I don't know, man, but like when men and women don't need each other, and it's all about like, cause that's the whole movement, right? You don't need a man. You just like want him or something. I don't know. It's crazy. Dude, if I didn't have needs for my wife, we wouldn't have made it through all the tough things that we've had to go through over the lifetime we've been together.
Yeah.
Shit gets hard. You need reasons to hang in there. And at some point they can't be like, love. I'm just hanging in there for love.
Well, love isn't enough.
It's man, not. The amount of and then truthfully, if you don't have needs for that person and you're like hanging in there for the kids, the amount of toxic relationships I've seen go on hanging in there for the kids, it's just, it's wild. I don't think that we can solve it. I think we can do what we can to influence those around us to like, micro tribe off, if you will. But like, it's tough, dude. How do you tell? I mean, like, even stuff I deal with my own mother, but like, how do you tell folks, like, I don't agree with a situation that was forced upon you or a situation that was whatever'd upon you and not feel like you're being an ass. I don't want to be an asshole to people. I just don't believe it. I think that, yes, I know you're going to point at like, or folks out there point at like the monsters that like beat on their wives. Yeah, kill that man, beat him up. But then again, if we had family models or whatever, your father, your brother, the people that are supposed to be a little influential in your life should have told you not to mess with that person. And then damn sure be there to go, look, I know I beat you within an inch of your life. You put your hands on my daughter again, you won't have a life to live. Yeah. But it wouldn't even go like, don't do it again.
Well, I think that therapy has obviously helped a lot of people too. I think it's become more of a topic that people have talked about and realize now that like maybe they do have something that they need to like work through with someone else, like a professional. I think they're now like doing research on things like ayahuasca and LSD and all this stuff for like mushrooms or whatever for like traumatic things. Cause I can imagine there are some people that have gone through some things that would definitely be scarring.
100%.
And so I think that accessibility to mental health needs to be better. Aubrey and I go to marriage counseling. Yep. It's not covered by insurance. Nope. And it's expensive. Yep. I mean, it's very expensive. If some of these couples like need to be going like multiple times a week, and if you did that to some of the, like our counselor, I want to say it's like $150 for the hour. And so you'd be paying $300 a week. So if you went twice a week, so you'd be paying like,
man, insurance ain't in the prevention business. They're not. And that's a whole nother topic. But, I think that mental health counseling, therapies and stuff, I think the idea of them are phenomenal. But I do think that people are just living so against their grain that a lot of times they're like, if you're just if your parents, society, and everything has pushed you into a college that gave you a degree that doesn't hire you, you've just been set up for failure. Everything you told was going to be okay is not okay. And you've just been set up for absolute failure. I would be fucking depressed too.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a person on this planet unless they were like, you're right, trade school or this or boom or new life. Unless they're doing that, I really just, and it, how like pep talking or they're there, that if they're there, I'll lose my mind. Right. So I think that's all they're doing is like listening to you going, well, how does that make you feel?
Well, yeah, I do agree with that. A lot of that
you're
is
like, oh my gosh, it's if you just like, and so I see that every day with the angsty stuff we watch here on social media, like people losing their minds. And it's like, the only reason you're that upset is because your whole life people told you your feelings mattered. And now you're in college and like, oh my gosh, this person has a difference of opinion. And you were just melting the fuck. You think that the cops are going to come take this man away. He's got a permit. He's willing to be there. And you're losing your shit. You have been set up for failure, sweetheart. I am so sorry.
Yeah.
Reprogram, reset, whatever. Like, I don't see a world where we win because we just get offended and think we won.
Yeah, I think that AI may actually make affordable counseling because I truly believe that with the ChatGPT 4.0 that there is now, you probably could literally create a counseling session with AI. But like you were talking about, it reminds me of what's that Maleficent? Yeah, Maleficent
the movie.
Yeah. So someone was telling me that essentially, they didn't invite her to Sleeping Beauty or whatever, parties. Her parents almost like tried to shelter her from the real world. And the moment she got out into the real world, like everything was crushed, because that's not what she thought. She wasn't prepared for it. It was kind of like that whole idea of like that biodome where they put the trees in it, and the trees started falling over because there was no wind. Like, you need the wind in order to, so you need adversity in your life to shape you into someone that can handle adversity.
Yeah, you need resistance.
If everything in your life was just given to you, the moment it's not given to you, you're like, what do I do? Because I've never had to like do this before. So I truly think that, you know, a lot of that is just preparing people for the real world, and just saying like, hey, some people are not going to like you for no reason. They're just going to look at you and go, I don't like that person.
Yes,
you know?
Exactly. And it's why, you know, when we allow just pure academics to go through all of academia and into policy making on our behalf, I'm not advocating for fighting, but like, there are places on this earth where if they just don't like the way you look, they could kill you. Yeah. So like, there's not places everywhere where you can just talk your way through things.
Right.
And so if you don't, and you can't know it because you've never experienced it. It's like thinking you know how to ride a bicycle by reading about one.
Right.
You just don't. And so, you know, Eastman's got up on here. How do we create leaders for the future? That's a tough one, man, because it's through adversity that we create hardened people. Right. And so like,
well, yeah. So was it good times or hard times make
hard men,
strong men, strong men create easy times, and easy times create weak men, and weak men create hard times. And
that's right.
It's this like whole
they don't know how. So the second one culture gets too soft, a harder culture raises up and brings it a boot, you know? And I've thought about this at length, right? Because not that I had this like hard life, but I've done, it's self-inflicted, done hard things, right? Competed, all that stuff. Well, unless my son really wants to, he's not going to have that chip on his shoulder that I had.
Right.
So if he wants to, great, go for it. But therefore, by nature, he's probably not going to have done a lot of, again, the hyper tough stuff that I've done.
He doesn't have the same why.
And I didn't have me to call. So like, if you were big enough if you're a man child and you're picking on my kid, I'm at least half beat you up. Something, I don't know, beat up your dad. But like I didn't have that. So like quit picking on me is like, you know, something he can say, and I'm going to honor that. I'm not going to like, so I guess that's my point is like, do you like let them fight all their own battles? Do you whatever? But like, how are we going to create leaders of the future when we're living in an AI soft, they're there. If you're upset, just talk to this, or Neuralink will fix it for you or whatever. I don't know.
Well,
I don't know.
The hardest part is, you know, like coming back to like the trees in the dome, hypothetically on paper, it seems like the best way to grow a tree would be in a dome to protect it from all the elements, allow it to get the sunlight it needs and the watering it needs. But then when we actually did it, they realized that it wasn't a practical solution. So I think the issue we have is like going back to what you said, there's a lot of people that have been through academia that get into politics and all this stuff. And hypothetically, what they're saying sounds good, right, but it is not practical. And I think that there's an argument between practicality and
very much,
you know, like academia or
real world, you know, the rubber meets the road at some point. And if you've not been there to experience it, you know, keep the analogy going. You can't feel the turmoil. You can't feel the takeoff. Right. You can't feel it. If you've never felt hot, you don't have respect for it. If you've been shocked, you know to cut that breaker, you know,
right. Yeah.
If you've been whatever, you know, not to, until then you just know not to.
Right.
You know, you barely walk out with your life. You touch something, shocks the hell out of you. You really remember that stuff. It sets in. It's wisdom at that point. Otherwise, you're just like, don't turn the breaker off.
Well, it's like you tell your kid, like, don't touch the stove. That's hot, you know, and they're like, well, you know, and then one day they touch the stove and they learn that it's hot.
Dang.
You know, have you ever burned your hand really bad?
Yeah. And really bad. It sucked.
One time I was cooking a steak and I was finishing it in the oven in a pan at like 400 degrees. And I remember I pulled the pan out with a mitt and I put it on the oven, and I walked out of the room and I came back in and I went to move the pan. And I gripped it and lifted before I realized it. And so dumb me didn't even drop it. I set it back down. And I remember my hand was so burnt that the only time it felt just bearable was if I had it in ice water and I was moving my hand, because, you know, like same thing with the cold plunge. If you ever cold plunge, within like a minute, you create this thermal barrier around yourself where essentially your body is like putting out heat to try to warm that layer, and without movement, the water just kind of stays like a thermal area that stays warm. So like you literally, I had to like move. I was like, had my hand in a bucket and I was like moving it around, or else it was just in pain.
Hell yeah.
And it was in cold ass ice water. So yeah, I mean, you definitely learn when that happens. Well, I think that's it.
Yeah.
Unless you got some fat and weird stuff. Our sealers are working, right?
Yeah, we got the sealers working.
Maybe.
We got to get the labeler on the other one. We should have that oven done by the end of the week. So
I'm going to hold you to that. I'll be back on next week.
It'll definitely be done by then. We got 5 wires. We'll start testing them on, one at a time. But yeah, we should be, right about doubling output through here. So that's all awesome.
Yeah, I mean, we got some news today.
Like 1 million bodies in the facility now at all times.
Yeah, we had news today talking to our president of sales that someone reached out and their volume wouldn't quite double what we're doing, because we're doing a little bit more than that, but it would be almost doubling what we're currently doing, which would just put us at probably about 80% of capacity of like clipping it, but yeah, we got we're really exciting things in the future. Obviously we're, getting into some more places and all that. Like, I like to talk to you guys about it, but it's so slow that like, I don't like talking about it.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, for example, just to put it in perspective, I've invested in that company Eat Counter, and they're like rolling out into places, but like they had meetings a couple months ago for rollouts in April of 2025 with like Sam's Club and things like that. So it's like takes so long.
I know, crazy.
Like literally when the people are like, oh yeah, we've talked to Publix, and they're like, oh, can I get them next month? I'm like, no, it's gonna be like 6 months probably, And so that's kind of where we're at. We have some really fun conversations, but we are still going through it. So,
yes, sir.
But yeah. Anything else?
No, I think we're good.
All right. Do hard shit. You're worth it.